Hey, welcome everybody to Get Real with Real Estate. I'm your host, Leo Pacheco with Canzale Realty here in Orlando. And today we're going to talk about roofing because it is an ongoing issue in the state of Florida and really throughout the country. And so as a realtor, we often face many challenges when it comes to roofs. Today we're going to talk about roofs, including the types of materials that are used, which are the best, the most cost-efficient materials, what you can do as a homeowner to ensure that when you go to sell your property, that your roof is in the proper condition, that insurance will cover it. Because here in Florida, as a matter of fact, there is an ongoing issue with insurance companies that we're going to get into when it comes to the age of roofs, where they won't even bind a homeowner's insurance policy, and the buyer has a hard time actually making the purchase as a result. So today we're going to talk all about roofing and cover kind of a broad spectrum as it relates to roofs, but something that will inform you, educate you, and make sure that you're aware of all of the nuances as it relates to roofing. Something that we don't often think about as homeowners, but always come up when you come to sell or buy a home. So first things first, the one thing that I always do as a realtor when we are going to look at a property for a buyer or we're going to sell a homeowner's property is we always talk about the age of the roof. So most homeowners are facing the fact that insurance companies will not cover a roof or cover the home, write a policy, if the roof is 16 years or older. That's usually on asphalt shingles. Now, on other forms of roofing, whether it's metal or something that has a much longer life expectancy, it's a different story. But we're going to talk about that today. So joining me today are Wes Deason and James Nedwell with Devore Capital Roofing out of Jacksonville. This is a minority-owned business based out of Jacksonville, and they serve a number of clients throughout Central Florida and along the East Coast as well. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the different types of roofing materials, particularly here in Florida. Now, there are different styles and, colors and different things like that. But the most common, of course, is asphalt shingles. And then there are some other types of roofing. Can you share with our audience, what are those other types of roofing? And then we'll kind of go back and talk about each one of them individually and how they apply, how much they cost, kind of the difference and the pros and cons of each. Can we start there?
Sure. So, Florida's kind of broken up into four regions. You've got, North Florida, South Florida, East and West. Pretty much everything south, let's just say, of the Orlando corridor, the I-4 corridor, is where you start to see some different materials. When you're further north, even, slightly east, you run into pretty much the same. I would say better than 80% of the homes in North Florida are going to be asphalt shingles. Metal is starting to become more popular. There's clay tile as well. There's even some composites that are out there now. And then, of course, probably everybody's kind of heard solar as kind of a new trend. And that's starting to become a little popular, even though the technology is not quite there yet. And, it's very expensive. But that's even a new one that's coming down the pike that will start to become more popular as the years go by. But pretty much asphalt is still reigns supreme as far as the most cost-effective roofing solution as far as putting it on your home that pretty much normal places have on their homes. Metal probably runs a second place to that. Metal is great. You'll see it more closer to the beaches, place of, things of that nature, and rural areas. You'll find a lot of metal. And then the further south you go, then you start getting into the clay and the tile composites. The Spanish tile look that's obviously very popular in Southern Florida type areas. So those are pretty much your main ones that you're going to be dealing with or seeing on the majority of homes in Florida.
So let's talk about the asphalt shingles. What exactly is an asphalt shingle?
So the best way to explain it is it's a petroleum-based product. It's made, and it's actually not too far from here. Most of the main plants are, in fact, we have one in Jacksonville. There's a plant in Georgia, Tennessee. Most of our stuff comes from what they call the southeast region. And it's a petroleum-based product. It's made with roofing tar or just, tar in general. And the reason they call it asphalt is because after they composite or build the shingle, they cover it with asphalt granules. So, if you own a home and you've got asphalt shingles and you have a gutter, I'm sure you see plenty of those in your gutter when you're, at the end of a rainstorm or after a few years, because the roof starts shedding those millions and millions and millions of little pebbles that are on your roof. But believe it or not, it's not really the shingle that protects your home so much. It's actually those granules. They're copper infused, so it helps with mold and mildew over a period of time. It also helps with streaking and radiation as well, as far as, blocking the sun from that heat trying to transfer through to your hot attic that everybody has as well. So, which leaves ventilation as a whole nother subject that we can get into at another point. But that's what typically an asphalt shingle is just a tar-based product, gas filled, and they mold them together, and then they cover them with a whole pile full of granules that over time obviously shed and come off those shingles, and that's why they break down actually.
Mm-hmm. And those granules, are those petroleum based as well, or are they more like a mineral type of deposit?
Great question. They're combined. So really they're more mineral based. It's almost like picking up stones off the beach, in that sense. Even though everything about a asphalt shingle is petroleum based to some degree. Okay.
So with asphalt shingles, what is the life expectancy of an asphalt shingle?
So it depends on several factors. So you have what's known as the manufacturer life expectancy, and then you have the realistic Florida life expectancy, because, unfortunately, they don't always match up. The manufacturers got real smart. There's two different types of asphalt shingles. We refer to them as 3-tab or architectural. And there used to be different varieties, a 20-year, a 25-year. You could even get a 30-year, a 35-year. That confused too many people. So eventually they just went to a standard 25-year shingle, and now what they call a limited lifetime, or what they'll even refer to as a 50-year shingle. Not to be mistaken with the fact that no asphalt shingle is going to last 50 years in Jacksonville by any stretch of the imagination, but they'll warranty it for that amount of time. From a Florida realistic standpoint, because of the heat, the moisture, the constant rain, a lot of windstorms and things that we do get, your standard 3-tab 25-year shingle is going to last no more on average than 20 years max. And that's why the manufacturers won't even warranty it past a 20-year period, which then one of the points you brought up earlier, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, is why the insurance companies won't want a life expectancy to go past 15 years, because they know it's at that point, it's at its end of its life. Architectural shingles, they're designed to last a little bit longer for some different reasons that we can get into. And even though they say it's a 50-year warranty, it's only covered at 100% for 10 years, and then it starts to prorate from there. But even though the shingle will last longer, you should get a solid 18 to 20 years out of it. The life expectancy of that starts wearing out sometimes around the same time as a 3-tab, 15, 16, 17 years. It's brittle. So if you have any type of repair issues, now you're dealing with, will a roofer want to repair it because the shingles are brittle and it's going to cause more damage to do the repair. So unfortunately, from an asphalt shingle standpoint, when we're talking about which shingle is going to last longer, it's one of those questions that you could ask 10 different roofers and get 10 different answers. But in general, we're not gonna be comfortable with much roofs over about an 18-year period, no matter which shingle that you go with.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anything anybody can do with an asphalt shingle to prolong the life of their shingle? Like, is there certain care and maintenance that should be performed to help extend that life, or is it just pretty much let it be and then just replace it when the time comes?
So the answer to that is yes. And there's some good things for people to keep track of or notice when they're doing the roof in the very beginning. And that is a good, solid installation. Nobody thinks about it, but you want a roofer that clearly isn't going to cut corners. That's going to build your roof from the decking up properly. with the proper amount of nails, the proper pressure in those nails. We've seen it many times when we've done an inspection on a roof that the shingles are only a few years old, but they're already pulling apart from each other. And that's because when the roofer went along with the nail gun, it had too much pressure in it, and he shot the nail and it blew all the way through the shingle. So there was nothing actually holding the shingle to the decking. The nail was clearly through all the way into the decking. And so the weight of the shingles themselves will eventually pull that glue line apart. So a proper installation by a quality, licensed roofer obviously is very important, using all the good technology and good crews that are solid to be able to put that roof on. That's number one. Number two is, from a maintenance standpoint or an initial standpoint, ventilation is a huge problem with roofs that we see in Jacksonville. In just our area, but in Florida alone, because the building code doesn't really allow for a lot of ventilation. There's a minimum amount of ventilation that by building code they have to put on a house. And unfortunately, it's a very small amount of ventilation. So, your roof has a soffit system. You think of it as an intake and an outtake. You've got air coming in, it's hot, it's moist, and you need it to escape. And a lot of these roofs have small vents, poorly located, maybe not even enough, and just too much air, hot air gets trapped in that attic, and it's always trying to rise and escape. So you've got heat on both ends of that shingle, and it will wear down that shingle over time. And so better ventilation, a roofer that will talk to you about ventilation and how to upgrade, adding more cubic feet of ventilation is very important, because it will add longevity to that shingle, because heat kills, period. Especially when you're dealing with asphalt. We've all stepped outside on hot asphalt, and it's soft. And then over time, when it gets hard again, it gets brittle much faster. And then from there, most of these shingles these days are designed to have 10 years worth of stain protection, things of that nature. After 10 years, there's some very easy organic products that can be sprayed on your roof that don't blow the granules off, that will keep the mold and the mildew off of it and things of that nature, keep it bright and vibrant, a little more fresh, and all of those things will combine to getting you a few more years out of your roof.
And is that a service that you guys provide?
We don't, as a particular company, yet have a maintenance program where we'll come out and do that. But over the last several years, we've seen a lot of just individual, not even roofing companies, because you don't have to be licensed to put the products on the roof like that. Mm-hmm. Seen a lot of outside companies like pressure washing companies, stuff like that makes it very easy for them. They already have the sprayer and the stuff to put it up there, the hoses and all that, and they'll come out. You can actually go to Walmart or any of those type of places and get those type of products and literally hook it up to the end of your hose and spray it up there from the ground. They have 20, 30 feet ranges, and you just want a light spray on there. The oxidation of that product takes over as it rains, and over that 3-4 month period will take effect and clean off that roof, which obviously helps.
Gotcha. So that was going to be my next question. Is that something that somebody can do themselves if they go to Lowe's or Home Depot? Something. Yeah, like that.
It's just like one of those Roundup bottles that just with your weed, just screw it on the end of your hose and spray it up there. And as we're talking about it too, one of the things that's very important, we see it a lot, is if you have tree coverage and you've got tons of branches and twigs and things on your roof, keeping those roofs clean and those gutters cleaned on a more consistent basis will help as well, because those little things tear up a roof pretty quick.
Okay, so we were talking about asphalt shingles, and you were mentioning that so there's this organic spray that people can get, like at Home Depot. What is it called, or what do they look for when they go?
It's there's a product called Wet It and Forget It, and literally it's exactly like it explains. You spray it up there, forget about it. It dries into the roof, and it actually activates every time it rains. So it's got little crystals, little oxidation crystals in there. If you've ever seen the metal vents that you have on your roof and you see the big streaks underneath them, and you think that that's actually those streaks are bad, believe it or not, that's the clean part of your roof underneath there, and it's the rest of the roof that's the darker part of the roof that's actually the stained part. And it's because the zinc that's actually coming off those the vents that washes off is actually keeping that roof clean in that area. And those crystals in that wet and forget it work exactly the same way. So every time it rains, they kind of activate, and the zinc compounds and the copper compounds in there clean off that mold, break it down. And every time it rains, it gets better and better and better. It takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months for it to take full effect. But since it rains enough here, you get plenty of action to help you clean that roof off.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay. And I have seen the commercials for the wet it and forget it, because I think they even talk about using it on like the siding of your house and that sort of thing to prevent mildew and kind of cleaning the entire exterior of your home.
Exactly. Safe for plants, completely organic. It's a good product.
Okay, great. So let's talk about some of the other types of tile that we often see in Florida. You had mentioned, like the metal roofs. You've also seen like the clay tile that give you kind of more of the Spanish Mediterranean look in some communities. We have a few of those communities here in Central Florida and in the Orlando area where, they kind of have the whole Mediterranean feel with the clay tile. What are some of the pros and cons of that, and how do they differ in price and life expectancy versus asphalt or metal?
So from a life expectancy standpoint, they will last longer. A typical tile roof, you should see, in most cases, unless you have damage that occurs to the tiles by flying debris or something of that nature, you should see 30 to 35 years out of a good tile roof. That's a good advantage, obviously, because you get more longevity out of it. One of the issues becomes, if you're thinking along the lines of adding that to your home, is your roof has to have a certain amount of structure for soundness built to it, because those tiles are obviously weighted much differently, and it adds a lot of weight to your roof. So you have to have the right build and availability to even put that on your roof. So it's a simple inspection, and they do some calculations and make sure that your roof can handle that weight load. What we see as one of the possible cons of a tile roof is that they're harder to clean. They're harder to walk on without damaging the tiles. So if you, for some reason, needed to get up there to clean your roof off or get some things out from under the tiles, you have to be very careful because they'll crack. And then they are almost impossible to repair, especially from a matchability standpoint. You get these tiles, a certain manufacturer, certain exact barrel shape or whatever they are. And, 6 years from now, that manufacturer doesn't make that exact tile anymore, shape, size, color. And now you've got to put something else in replace up there. And now now it looks like you've got a weird patched roof. And just from a roofing repairability standpoint, there's not a lot of qualified roofers out there. You can find them, but they're not as easy to find as far as that'll actually do those kind of repairs and do them very well, because they're a lot more difficult. They're probably the most difficult type of roof to repair is a tile roof, and they're expensive. I guess, that could be a pro or con depending on the longevity and the look that you want, because they are very, very beautiful. One of the cool things is GAF, which is one of the major manufacturers of shingles and supplies in the country. They have some pretty cool new technology that's simulated tile shingles. So they literally are a shingle, but it looks like a tile. And so it's a little less expensive, lasts a good long time, much more repairable, and still gives you that look and feel of a tile roof. So there's some cool options out there if that's one of the looks or styles that you're going after, or if you currently already have it on your home.
Okay, let's talk about the time frame as far as asphalt shingles, because it's the most popular and the most common that I see in most of the homes that I'm selling. And I would say 80% of the homes that I sell are asphalt shingles, and the other 20% are pretty much anything else. With that said, what is the time frame these days for getting a new roof installed if you're using asphalt shingles, and does supply chain have an impact on that?
It does. Thank goodness it's getting better. But if we go back just not even 6 months ago, the supply chain was in really rough shape. Pretty much every supplier on the market was on allocation, meaning they're going to put in an order, and they're not guaranteed that they're getting that order anytime soon or on any kind of time frame, depending on the color or the style. Certain manufacturers, Owens Corning to be one, there was certain shingles that they just weren't going to produce at this point in time. So that color just, once it was gone, it's just not going to exist, and it may not come back. There's certain colors that they're talking about that might not even come back that are still in their color palettes. So things are very interesting. So for most roofers, it used to be we would attach ourselves as a company to one particular supplier or manufacturer or another, because maybe we like Owens Corning a little better for design and colors, maybe GAF's a little better. Unfortunately, we've all had to adapt and go to opening up those lines of manufacturers that we were willing to get shingles from, whether it's Atlas, Tamco, GAF, Owens Corning, Certainteed, because depending on even if you wanted a black shingle, which is one of the most popular shingles, we might have to go through several different companies to find who has a black shingle that we can go ahead and put on your roof, where you're not having to wait 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks to get your roof replaced. It is getting better. So when we talk about time frame, if you are picking a pretty standard color, something in the black or brown palette that are pretty popular anyway. Most roofers should be able to get your roof on these days within a 3, no more 4-week period from the time that you agree on an estimate, get the proper documentation in place so permits can be pulled, and then get that order in, get it delivered, and get it put on. A good standard rule of thumb should be 3 to 4 weeks from when you start that process, as long as there's no hiccups or you're after a color that just doesn't exist right now that they have to track down. That could delay it, but otherwise you should still be able to get a roof put on fairly quickly these days, asphalt wise.
All right, so let's talk about insurance. So when you guys go to replace a roof, how does it work with the roofing company and the insurance if a homeowner has insurance that is covering the cost of the roof?
Great question, because it's certainly something that is a popular subject these days. It's on a lot of people's minds. There's been a lot of traffic in the news and in the state government and things of that nature that has added a lot of light on the subject, but also can confuse a lot of people. I guess the best place to start is that the first thing that anybody wants to think about when dealing with their roof is getting a good qualified inspection. Before you start thinking, am I eligible to do insurance or not, or where should I go with this project, is get a roof inspection and first of all find out what's going on. Is there storm related damage? Is there repairability left on your roof? Is there some age left on it, and we can salvage some time with that roof, maybe with just a repair or something else that might give you a little more time before you have to make that decision. So that's really what I see. A lot of people, they dive into the end result first and try to work on that before they find out all the little things that are going on with their roof. So once you get a good qualified inspection and assuming, let's just say that you have storm related damage to your roof, which is very common here in Florida, especially to asphalt shingles, and insurance then becomes an option for you to go through. It's very sensitive subject for a lot of roofers. We handle it here at Devore Capital a little different because we understand the rules of the game very well. This is something that I've been in this market doing insurance work with roofing for over 12 years. And I've seen all of the different angles and all the different ways that it's happened over the years. And my suggestion would always be this, is always work with the right qualified people that can handle the right qualified scenario. Roofers are good at one thing, and that's should be inspecting your roof and putting on a good quality product. What roofers really are not good at, and it's not necessarily their fault, is they're not good at handling insurance claims because they're not an insurance company. They're not an attorney. They're not licensed adjusters. In all reality, the truth is roofers really don't have that much ability at all to help you with your claim outside of just giving you some standard steps that happen within a claims process. They might even tell you, hey, we'll help you with the claim. The best that they can do by law is just really touch base with the insurance company and ask how it's going. Which, if it were me personally, I'd want a little more assistance than that from a qualified expert compared to just somebody that can call up and go, hey, how is my claim going? Because unfortunately, since roofers aren't licensed, they're not capable of doing that type of work with an insurance company. Insurance companies aren't obligated to have to talk to a roofer. They can't negotiate. They can't affect a claim. So I would always make sure that I work with a roofing company that has a team or a group of experts that they've attached themselves to that steer you in the direction for the right person, whether it's an adjuster that actually has a license to be able to work on a claim, or a law firm or some type of firm like that actually has the right people on staff that can actually work with your claim, talk the right language, negotiate, and get you a fair settlement for what you need on your roof. At the end of the day, it should be a very simple process to where a homeowner has their one responsibility with that project, which is to pay their homeowner deductible. And then from there, everything else, if it qualifies, should be covered to be paid for because you've paid for that type of coverage in your insurance policy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you guys can do that through Devore Capital, correct?
Correct. We would do the inspection, let you know what all of your options are, whether it's insurance related, paying out of pocket, repair work, whatever we feel is your best options. And then should you want to pursue to say, yes, let's see if we can get this taken care of through insurance, we direct you to one of our partners that are experts in being able to handle that, and we let them handle that situation for you, and then we just hang in the wings until it's all taken care of, and then we come out and do what we're experts at, which is put on a great quality product for you, licensed, insured, and so on to do so.
Okay, so as we go to wrap this up, what are some options for somebody who may not have homeowners insurance or homeowners insurance that wouldn't cover a roof? What are some options for somebody getting a new roof, or if there's damage or something that they just need fixed? What financing options, or how can they get a roof through other means?
Sure. So what we would consider retail or cash option, which is solely then on the homeowner themselves to get their roof replaced or fixed. Most roofers these days have financing programs that they have available to help assist, whether it's no interest financing for a short term or a long term period with some interest rate. Most of them can help you with that with a simple application process. Once it's determined what the options are that you have with your roof, and if the only option, or if the homeowner just wants to go out of pocket, then we look to set that up with them, whether it's a down payment and then put their roof on, collect the rest at completion, or set them up on a financing program. There's a lot of different ways to help get them what they need. Especially if they're up against the wall with what to do with the insurance company. If they've received the famous letter saying, hey, you've got to get your roof replaced because your roof is old, and now you don't know what to do. So, you feel like you're stuck, which you're not. Once again, get in touch with a company like ours, and we'll help you walk through that process. You're not stuck. You're not in jeopardy of really bad things happening. The only thing that really makes things rough on a roofer, let's just say, when we're dealing with a homeowner or a realtor, like in your case, is when everybody waits till the very last second to get something done and then needs it done tomorrow. That one's always a little tougher to have options at that point. If we can get on things early, get there a little faster to start seeing what's going on, then it opens up your realm of more possibilities of how to help you get things accomplished.
Right. Okay. And so speaking of that, so I know this is kind of a very broad general question, and it's not something that anybody can hold you to, but what would you say is the typical price for, let's say, a 2,000 square foot home for asphalt shingles, if they're having them installed? What would the typical price range be, or what can the homeowner expect to pay on average?
Okay. Always a fun question to answer because there's so many determining factors. But if we were just to think of a roof as a simple process, not a lot of bells and whistles up there, just, shingles have to come off and, new products have to go back on, and there's not a lot of things to deal with like skylights or, weird ventilation or things of that nature up there. If we keep things fairly simple, unfortunately, all of us as roofers this year went through 4 different manufacturer price hikes, as you can expect, because everything seemed to have gotten more expensive this last year for everybody. But so roofs are a lot more expensive than they used to be, and that's for sure. I would say fairly on a 2,000 square foot roof, because that's always different than the actual size of the home. The roof calculation is a little bit different. But you're probably looking in the neighborhood of around about $10,000. It would be somewhere of a fair number within a given range. Let's just say $1,000 either way. And then, things that can be a factor in that cost is if when the shingles come off, if you've got wood damage, and by building code standards, that would need to be replaced. If you do have some bells and whistles up there, different sizes of vents or skylights that need to be replaced or things of that nature, of course, those little things can add on a few dollars here and there. But just in general, 2,000 square feet, you'll be thinking around a $10,000 figure shingle wise to replace that roof. And, from there, everything gets more expensive as far as metal, tile, things of that nature.
Sure. Okay. Fantastic. So tell everybody, Wes, what is your role with Devore Capital? And then we're going to ask James the same thing, because we haven't even talked to him yet. So we're going to kind of pull him in and talk about what his role is with Devore Capital. And then we're going to talk about how everybody can get in touch with you, which, by the way, we're going to do a link through our website, and I'll tell everybody about that. But tell me a little bit about what your role is with Devore Capital, and then we'll ask James the same question.
Okay. I'm the vice president of operations. I've been with this company now for about 7 months. The company is over 6 years old. I was brought in to run the entire roof and construction side of the business. So I am operations, so I make sure that all of our sales teams are doing everything correctly, as well as our production teams kind of coordinating and putting all those right people in the right places.
All right, James. So what is your role with Devore Capital?
Yeah, so I'm one of the sales guys here. Actually been with Devore when I first moved down here to Florida back in 2021. This was the first company that I saw, came over to them, and so been about a little bit over a year now with them. And I'm not only sales, but I'm in part of the entire project too, right? So I oversee it on the day of the build, the cleanup, all that kind of stuff. So we're not only sales, but we're also project managers, which I think is really cool, because a typical what you see in the roofing industry is guy knocks on your door, does the inspection, and then disappears. And then now you're talking to someone that you've never met before. So what we do here is we don't not only inspect the roof, sell the job, but we oversee it from cradle to grave. So the entire process, no matter what it is, retail or insurance, however long it's going to take, we're with that customer throughout the entire thing. So if they ever have any questions, we're the first line of contact, and then we will find out the answers for them.
Fantastic. Okay. So that's great. And I really appreciate all of the information. Is there anything else that either of you would like to add that you want to share with the audience when it comes to roofing?
Well, I'm sure there is, but I think we've covered off on some really good stuff today. Just imparting anything final. Roofing doesn't need to be as stressful and as time consuming as sometimes it can be. If we can, once again, if we can get that inspection done quickly, especially on your with what you do, Leo. Selling a home or looking at buying a home, the faster that inspection can get done when you're ready to sell that home, the better, so that you don't run into issues at the last hour before closing and find out that the roof becomes an issue. Because from a 4-point inspection standpoint, the roof is one of those 4 points, and it's usually the very first thing that comes up in the inspection as far as the age, the quality, can it be repaired, can it be matched, all of those things. And it's the number one thing that will squash a project is that roof. So the faster that we can come out there and look, get you your options, let you know kind of what's going on, the better. And from there, our goal, obviously, or anybody's goal should be, is to make it as seamless and easy as possible. The home is usually the number one investment that people, make in their lifetimes. And weirdly enough, the roof is the last thing they think about on the biggest investment that they have. And it's the number one thing that protects their home. And I think it's just because you come home every day, and if you don't see a leak, you think everything's working just fine. And sometimes that's the farthest thing from the truth. Water could be getting in, and you just don't know it because you haven't seen the brown spot on the ceiling yet. So it's always good every year after storm season. November is about a good time because all the hurricanes should be done by then, if we have them, knock on wood. That is a good time to have your yearly inspection. Just have somebody come out. They'll always do it for free, or they should, and just let you know, hey, your roof's in good shape. We'll see you next year. That kind of thing. It's always good to put that in your program of maintenance, just like you would any other major appliance or things that, has a lifespan to it.
Sure. No, that's great advice, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys sharing the information that you have. I think it's very valuable to those who will be watching and listening to this broadcast. And I want to tell everybody right now that the way to get a hold of Devore Capital is we actually have a link on our website where you can go to. If you go to lionscrestgroup.com, and you'll see that on your screen, /resources, they will be on there as one of our preferred partners, and you will have Wes's contact information, a little bit about the company, and you'll also have a link to where you can email him and let him know that you heard about it on this broadcast, and they'll help you get started on either replacing your roof or giving you some advice on what you can do to maintain your roof and help you in everything roofing, answer any questions that you may have that we didn't answer here today. So again, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing with our audience all of this great information, and we're really excited about you being a partner of ours. We kind of went over, but it was good information. I certainly learned a lot, even just from what you had to share. So it's great information, and I think it's going to be very productive for the audience that we market this to.
Awesome. Great.
Push over